Hi, everybody. So, with this first week of class, I want to make sure that we are all on the same page with our terminology, specifically with that phrase, social justice. It can bring up some fairly negative connotations for people, in part because it deals with challenging material. So, to make sure that we are all thinking about this and describing it the same way, I want to just make sure that we have the same basis and the same ideas behind our definitions. Okay, so with that in mind, I have put together just a little short video for you all talking through that term. All right, so you should have already read what does social justice mean, and you're not going to believe what I have to tell you, that the latter of which is a very visual kind of essay on the term. So make sure that you've gone over both of those things. If you have not, pause the recording, go look those through, and then come back. Okay. All right. So definition of social justice. All right. Now, these articles do a really good job of creating some framework around the term. And so what I'd like you to do now is write down your own definition of social justice. I'll give just a couple of seconds for you to do that. Please do not Google or steal a definition or use a definition from the articles. Create your own. Get rid of that little window down there on the screen. All right. As you write down your own definition, I'm going to give you a definition that I have come up with for this term. And this is a definition I came up with in conjunction with our readings. So social justice concerns the argument, discussion, or active participation in issues that negatively impact some, but perhaps not all people of a society. Right? These issues typically lead to debate, activism, protest, and or a distrust in societal conventions, leaders, and or rules of law. Hence why these subjects and topic material can be difficult, controversial, and hard to work with. Okay. A lot of the time when we are talking about issues of social justice, they'll move beyond this issue of what is fair or equitable or equal. And we end up talking about class and race. We talk about equity and participation, human rights. We may look at topics that are kind of a confluence or synthesis or joining together of a couple of these different topics. So it might cover issues of gender or gender and sexuality, or racism and gender, or economic disparity and issues of government overreach, or education and issues of sexual harassment, or healthcare and affordability in economics. So sometimes there is overlap. Okay. Some topics in particular that might help you form your own definition and come up with a topic that you want to write on this quarter for our major paper assignments. Okay. Larger topics to consider. Gender equity, or equality, I should say, in sports. The terms equality and equity are different, so I do use them throughout. If I misspeak, I will correct myself. Okay, gender equality in sports. Title IX issues on a college campus. This could also be on a high school campus. Role of state and federal government. This could be the role economically. This could be the role in enforcing federal or state statutes. We've had a lot of different issues going on lately with federal and state government with our new president. So you might be able to mine different issues that way regarding social justice. The wage gap, or the concept that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Reproductive rights, specifically abortion rights, the legality there, and affordability of healthcare. We also have issues of racial injustice related to healthcare, gun control rights, body autonomy. It's a fairly big category that can cover a lot of different ground regarding gender, sexuality, body modification. It's a really big category, okay? And racial injustice, also a large category to look at. Okay, so with that in mind, part of the issue here is how do we narrow down the focus? If we're going to write on these topics that are really big and broad, how do we bring it in a little bit smaller so that we can have a clearly focused paper or argument or analysis of arguments? And to do that, sometimes you will look internally and come at this larger topic from an angle that you feel a personal connection with. So if you have had experience with gender inequality in sports or racial injustice, perhaps you use that experience as a springboard to enter into the topic. Okay, but just for example, some ways to narrow down the focus: gender inequality in men and women's professional sports would take on that larger gender equality in sports topic, and perhaps the focus would be narrowed even further to WNBA and NBA, or MLS and NWLS. Right? If we're looking at wage gap, perhaps we look at individual states. And Washington State's issue with raising the minimum wage has been a hot topic of conversation for quite a while, at least the last 15, 20 years. Much longer than that, though, I'm sure. All right, we have issues with Title IX currently in public schools, not just related to trans athletes in sports, and this could even translate into higher ed as well. Okay, affordability of healthcare. Should healthcare be free to certain populations of people? What role should state and federal governments take in regard to racial injustices? Does there need to be some change in laws and policing to combat these issues, or do things need to stay the same, or do we need to pull back and have less resources and responsibilities on a state, local, federal level towards racial injustice? Do we defund certain aspects of government like police and transfer those funds over to the social workers and mental health workers in our communities in order to look at policing issues? So those are all ways to kind of bring it in a little bit tighter from those larger categories. Okay, and sometimes you can come at these more focused avenues by watching your local news, by going through and looking over CNN.com or FoxNews.com or MSN.com, whichever news source you gravitate toward. Look through the daily headlines, see what people are talking about. If you don't have a personal way of entering into the conversation, see where you would be in the overall conversation that's already happening on a local level, on a state or federal level. And again, you access that information by reading the news. Okay, what is the backfire effect? This is something that was mentioned in one of your readings. So this particular phrase refers to receiving new information that is completely different from what you already believe or know to be true. So when you receive this information, you don't know where to put it. There is no place that it fits within how you understand the world to be, and that information can throw you for a loop. Sometimes we will completely block that information away, disregard it. Other times we work really hard and we try to incorporate it into what we already know to be true. And when we do that, sometimes we have to change the way we look at the world. Okay, to accept that information means sometimes we will have to update our own ideas and our own framework. Okay, and again, sometimes that's not easy to do.